It's finally time to talk about System. Hey everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for another Top 10 Countdown. Today I'm going to be doing one for a Patreon request. That's right, somebody finally kicked my ass in gear and made me do what I've been meaning to do for years. So everybody in the comments say thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And he's the reason why we're getting the Top 10 Countdown today. So if you would like to help out the channel on a monthly basis, you can check out my Patreon. It's the top link in the description down below. Find out how you can get an album reviewed, a top 10, or an episode of 7 on Sunday. We don't want to hear about your damn Patreon. Give us content. Okay, loyal viewer, your voice has been heard. On a serious note though, guys, today I'm going to be counting down my top 10 favorite System of a Down songs. Keep in mind, these are all just my personal picks. There is no such thing as a definitive top 10. There is no such thing as, oh, why isn't this here? Oh, I mean, there is in the comments every time I upload a top 10, but you know, there shouldn't be. System of a Down were the first ever hard rock and metal band that I fell in love with, and I've got an old friend to thank for that. He burned one of their songs to a mix CD for me, and if you saw a recent episode of 7 on Sunday where I talked about my first 7 songs and 7 bands that I ever fell in love with, then I would recommend watching that. You know what's coming if you've seen it. If not, I will put it in a notation at the end of this video. Other than that, no more stalling. Leave a like on the video. Let me know what other top 10s you'd like to see, and here we go with my number 10 pick.
The spiders all in tune, the evening of the moon, dreams are made winding through my head,
Coming from their 1998 self-titled record, we have Spiders. This is a very brooding, dark cut. It's one that showed early on that they were gonna have crossover appeal. System of a Down aren't just the sporadic screams and the thrashing guitars and the shouts that you can't even distinguish. It's something that comes through with multiple sides. Yes, a lot of times they look at things through anger, and they can still do that, but through the shield of something more, I guess, commercially appealing, something that more people can consume. And this is a song that I definitely got into early on. Obviously in 2005, that's when I got into them. They were putting out like their double album material. I was going back, I had heard a couple of other songs, but it wasn't until like years later that I got back to the self-title. And even before knowing that this was a single, Spiders jumped off the page to me. I really like this one because it seems to be talking about like the government watching us. And obviously System of a Down being a very, very politically based band, they stand for a lot of different things, and while I don't always agree with their views on everything, it's always interesting to see that perspective. And here, it seems like they're talking about people spying on us and being controlled, and that's a recurring theme that we see throughout their discography. And I, for one, am okay with that because I like the fact that somebody is protesting so vehemently. I love that they're fighting back, putting their views all over their music. The guitar tone here is so dark, and I love Serj Tankian's vocals as they just kind of soar over this track. In my head, he's all over the place, especially on the chorus, and it builds up to be a little bit more, but those drums really have the adding out like effect, like just the rounding out to make this song what it is. Tentative is a perfect example of just why I love System of a Down so much. I mean, sometimes I can't put a finger on it whenever I'm trying to explain it to people because a lot just aren't going to get it, to be quite frank. I mean, if you're into harder music and you're open to hearing different styles, yeah, definitely. And I definitely suggest maybe you start off with some of their slower songs, but honestly, this is a good starting place too. Tentative is a great one that just embraces what I was talking about. Why do I love System? Well, they have this great, loud, quiet dynamic that they do, and they have here some very jarring verses on this thing, a lot of shouts going about, and then it spirals perfectly into "We're Going Down," this really, really catchy chorus with some great backing vocals vocals, and we'll get more into that as we progress. And this track isn't one of the ones that I would just shine a spotlight on and say, wow, Darren Malakian had some killer backing vocals, or Shavo came through and did something awesome on this track. This is one that is just really steady in the way that it presents itself. It's like a roller coaster ride. You're like flying, and then it just kind of hits that curve where you're like building back up, and then it jumps straight back off of a cliff. That's the best way that I can explain Tentative, and that's all positive comparisons.
Why can't you see that you are my child? Why don't you know that you are mine? Tell everyone in the world that I'm you.
I've really been into my number 8 pick, Forest, as of late. This is something that sees them embracing their environmentalist roots, and it appears on their 2001 release Toxicity, arguably their most successful album to date. Notice how I say to date, because I am still waiting on that new album. I know everybody else is as well, but please, please, Serj Tankian, if you're the one really holding this up, this metal band is often very, very clever with their lyrical content, and while they are protesting things quite often or taking a stance, they often do it by personifying other objects. And here, that is Mother Earth herself. She's looking down and very disappointed at her child. And obviously Serj Tankian is singing here, "Can't you see that you are my child?" The chorus is catchy as hell. I cannot get it out of my head as of late. I keep coming back to it, and I'll like fall asleep at night, and this line in particular is stuck in my head. I love the verses building up to it as well. The whole song just really builds up a different aura, and the song that comes right after that, ATWA, is fantastic as well. Honorable mentions are stacked up in the description, so don't think that I'm not showing them any love. I just really love how big the chorus is on this one, and the backing vocals really get a chance to start to shine.
Everybody, everybody, everybody live it now. Everybody, everybody, everybody die. It's an non-stop disco, bet she's the best, bet you didn't know. Non-stop disco, bet she's the best, bet you didn't know. Non-stop disco, bet you didn't know, bet you didn't know. Non-stop disco, bet you didn't know, bet you didn't know, bet you didn't know.
I really wish I could have seen my girlfriend's face whenever I sent her this whole thing to edit, for one, and her reactions to some of the songs, but she edits the transitions for this, like the song that you just watched, the background and everything like that. Say thank you, Hannah, in the comment section, along with thank you, Matt, for the Patreon supporter. There's a lot of thank yous going on here, but what I'm getting at is that this is just such an off-kilter song, something like just so abrupt and jarring with its lyrical content. It's like if you have no idea what this band is about, you're gonna hear lines like choking chicks and sodomy and the type of shit that you get on your TV and just be like, what the fuck? Really, this is a protest song at its core. I love that about it. It's very manic, scattered all over the place. It's almost like split personalities with the way that this one comes through. And it comes through with this kind of Chop Suey styled vocal performance where he's just really going fast, Serj Tankian that is, with his vocals, and then it gets to the chorus and they're shouting back and forth. I love the fact that Darren and Serj both do great things on this track. It's weird. It's a very strange song, and it is one that hits like a lightning bolt.
Now you police the globe.
What about my crack, my smack, my bitch right here in Hollywood?
Draw the money suits to recollections and train motor golden thoughts indicators around the world. There's one of them on prison. I'm trying to build a prison. I'm trying to build a prison. I'm trying to build a prison. Where you want me to live in? Another prison system. Another prison system.
Like I was saying with the last song, yeah, the band style can be a little bit jarring, especially if you're not exactly sure what these guys are all about. And once again, we're getting another song that comes through with the line like, these aren't just asinine, wasted words for anyone that is new to System. They are all a part of the message of Prison Song. And this one is obviously frantically talking about the message of prisons being like overcrowded and America just trying to build a prison. They're trying to build a prison. They're trying to build a prison. I love the shouts on this track. It is so, like, in places intense, like almost like a growl in the vocals. And I love that. But they're talking about basically the government trying to build bars around us, whether it be literally or metaphorically, trying to place holds on exactly what we can and can't do, trying to control more and more and more, and taking away our freedom, essentially. I love the heaviness of this track, and I love the lyrics as well. We're circling back to a point that I talked about earlier on Forest, and we're once again going to apply it to New Gunz. This is a hidden gem, I feel like, from Steal This Album, where once again we're getting personification, which is giving like human-like qualities to an object, an idea, or a thing, or a place. And here it seems to be America, the her in this song, and the guns, and everything, the weaponry, everything that is being talked about. And I love the musicality of this track more than anything. Obviously the vocals are great, but I can't help but get lost in this song. It switches it up. Once again, System are really known for having an eclectic style and mix within songs, not just an eclectic mix within an album, but within one singular song. There's a fucking oud solo from, I believe, Darren Malakian himself on this track. I love that. Or was it Shavo? I'm not sure, but somebody did an oud solo, and it is fantastic. When do you see an oud in metal? You know what? I'm gonna retract that last statement. I don't listen to enough metal to make a comment like that, so I am so sorry. There's probably tons of ouds in metal. Whatever, this song kicks ass. I don't like Steal This Album as much as some of their others, but with hidden gems like this, you cannot go wrong.
My sweet revenge will be yours for the taking. It's in the making, baby. Killing with a sink, bleeding in a sink, punching a drink, getting on the brink, kissing with a sword.
My number 4 pick, Revenga, is perhaps one of the catchiest in the band's entire discography. Like I was talking about with Violent Pornography, except more to I guess, a full extent here on this track. I really feel like they're going for that Chop Suey effect, not trying to replicate it by any means. And no, that song is not on this list. Spoiler alert, it is in my honorable mentions. It's a fantastic song, but you just can't include everything. I love this one, not because it replicates the same style, but because it follows that pattern that I love, just the almost indistinguishable vocals from Serj. Seems like he's losing his mind having a breakdown on this track. I like that the guitars double down and get a little bit more intense and add more to the track as we move towards its finale. Like each time the chorus rolls around, I feel like it's a little bit more dramatic, and I think that's a little bit of a change of key, tone, and pacing as well. And the drums come in and are very thunderous, really just standing out on this track in particular to me.
Life is a waterfall. We drink from the river, then we turn around and put up our walls. Swimming through the void, we hear the word. We lose ourselves, but we find it all.
Talk about being mesmerized. That was me the very first time that I ever heard Aerials. I remember hearing this one on the radio. I actually didn't see the music video until like years later, which really tripped me out whenever I did. But I heard this one on my local rock station, and this was probably 2005, 2006, and I was immediately drawn to it. I had no idea who it was. I remember I would sit like by the radio with like a notebook and would like write down lyrics so that I would try to guess who it was, and I obviously figured out that it was System of a Down, but I just immediately, right off the bat, I was drawn to that guitar. It's so like almost cinematic the way that it comes in. It's very light, and then those pouncing drums just really build it up lightly and then drive straight into it. Life is a waterfall, that iconic line from Serj Tankian, and that is built upon later in the song. One of my favorite lyrics from Serj and the rest of the guys in general. Life is a waterfall, we drink from the river, then we turn around and put up our walls. Like shutting other people out, not letting any people in with like whatever information maybe needs to be transmitted and that sort of thing.
Why don't you ask the kids at Tiananmen Square? Was fashion the reason why they were there? They disguise it, hypnotize it.
Hypnotize is definitely hard to pin down with an exact meaning. Once again, I mean, yes, obviously this one is politically charged. Why don't you ask the kids at Tiananmen Square? You know, once you get that line, like right off the bat from Tankian, that this is going in a political direction. But then, I think it almost speaks to the apathy of people in general. I'm just sitting in my car waiting for my girl. I love that line. Like, baby, I don't want to get involved, whatever the situation is. With songs like this, like, I've known them for so long, I could go look up and see what people's annotations are on Genius, but a lot of times that just kind of like ruins the song for me, especially with stuff that I have loved for so long. I find my own personal meanings for these tracks, and I try to do like a deep dive in my own mind, and I know why I love them. And a lot of it is for the lyrics, but obviously on this one as well, I'm loving the harmonies. That is one of the best things about this track. It stands out, especially towards the end of this, whenever they're building up to that climax, they're both singing, "I'm just sitting in my car waiting for my girl." I love that. But I also love that guitar breakdown, where it really just adds an offbeat style. It's got an odd pacing to it. There's a little bit of a stuttered like electric guitar in there, and then an acoustic going in the background as well, slowly building it up and up and up, and then finally crashing back into the final "I'm just sitting in my car," that whole thing. It's another fantastic song from System, and I could see this being in a lot of people's top 10s.
Healing roses disappearing into Moses' dry mouth, breaking into Portnoy, sealing our intentions, and a sitting drift and oil, crying freedom, and a do obsolescence. Still you feed us lies from the tablecloth.
You knew this one was coming. Did I really have to say anything? It was my first System song, and it is a fan-fucking-tastic one. B.Y.O.B. Bring your own bombs. You know this one's politics. From the almost summery spry verses on this thing, "Everybody's going to the party, have a real good time," to the "why they always send the poor" shouting. This thing is literally all over the place, and I know that most of you, if you know anything about System, you know this one, you probably know Aerials, and you probably know Chop Suey as well. You know this is a certified classic in ARTV's book because I just gave it the stamp of approval here at number 1. I don't even feel the need to say anything about this one anymore. Like, that's it. That's a good enough summation. You guys know this one rocks. That concludes our top 10 System of a Down song, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like on it, and let me know what other top 10s you'd like to see in the comment section down below, along with maybe your top 5 or 10 System tracks. Thanks again to our Patreon supporter that made this happen, and if you guys do have a request, hit me up on Patreon, and we'll see what we can get done. Other than that, yeah, I've got another System video on the way. Make sure you stay tuned. My Patreon is linked in the corner right over here. That 7 on Sunday episode where I talk about System is right here, and another recent review from ARTV right here. Social media in the description, and I'll see you very soon right here for more top 10s and plenty of other videos.